Hey everyone, good afternoon. I am jumping on today to talk about my favorite quote. So, my favorite quote is life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Excuse my dog barking in the background. Someone was slamming a door in a different part of our building. But sometimes it's easier said than done because I'm pretty good about handling this because I know when something happens, like a decision's made, whatever it is, the weather turns bad, whatever happens, like I know it is what it is. And like that's always what I say is like it is what it is. Here we are. This is where we are today, or this is where I am today. And I know I have to move forward from here to my next step. And I'm pretty good at that. I didn't used to be that good at that though. And so it's taken a lot of work for me to get to this point of, hey, how are you going to react to the situation? You have choices here. Because a lot of times we're not in control of what that decision is or what happens. We're not in control of that. So let's just say the weather, because that might be it's a kind of a dumb example, but it's an easy example to relate to. If you live up north and all of a sudden you get 5 inches of snow and you're like, oh God, now I have to go out in the snow and I don't want to do that. Is it worth doing that? Is it, instead of hemming and hawing, like, what am I going to do here? Just say, okay, it is what it is. So here are my choices. I can either continue with my schedule and go to the appointments I have scheduled out and about. I can reschedule those appointments. Or maybe some of you can move on to Zoom or some other online platform, right? So you have choices in how you react to what just happened. And same thing in my line of work. I could do a proposal for a client and they may or may not take my proposal, right? So say they don't, they go with someone else, and that's business. But I can choose how I react to that. I cannot let it get me down. Like, oh my God, I was really counting on this proposal to happen. I was really counting on that revenue or whatever goes through our minds when something happens. Like, why wouldn't they choose me? Because sometimes we take it as a personal affront, right? When we don't get some business. And we really can't do that because if you really want to build your business and grow your business, you have to let stuff like that slide. You can learn from it, like why, maybe you have some facts of why they chose someone else over you. But once you get those facts and learn from them, you still have to move forward. You can't feel down about someone not choosing you, right? If that's the example I was using. I can't feel down that someone chose a different company. No, like it is what it is. They made the decision that was best for them. I have to move forward. So how do I react to that decision? And that's really a key piece. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you deal with it. And whenever I'm asked what my favorite quote is, like this is a quote I give pretty much all the time because I think it's so powerful when you really think about it. But again, I said in the very beginning, I haven't always been able to do this easily. So I want to jump on and just talk about 5 tips that help. And one is mindfulness. So mindfulness, staying in the present moment. A lot of us, whether you're in business or you're not in business, we like to think like worst case scenario for whatever reason. We're like, well, this could happen or this, or then we think about stuff that happened in the past, but we have zero control over because it's already done. What's done is done, right? So the big piece in mindfulness is like focus on the present moment. Focus on what's going on right now, because this present moment is the only thing that we can actually impact. We cannot impact something that's in the past. Obviously, it's already done. And what's potentially in the future, the present impacts the future. So we can't think like, well, what if this happens in the future? Or what if this? Because then you're going to drive yourself nuts, first of all. And you don't want to do that. So really think like, how can I create mindfulness and just stay focused on that, and stay focused on how can I react this moment. Number 2, emotional intelligence. And that's a buzzword that we hear out and about a lot, but it's really working on recognizing your emotions and those of others, because a lot of times our emotions dictate how we react to a situation, right? So how are you, if you get down, so say the example I gave a minute ago is I did a proposal for someone and they rejected the proposal and went with someone else. So it's business. Do I feel down about it? Yeah, sometimes I do, depending on who the client is. Because a lot of times I put a lot of work into proposals to do them. But it's like understanding, why do I feel that way? And how can I, use what I learned from that experience to be better the next time? But it's not reacting from those emotions and those emotions. That's a big piece is, what I can't do is get down and say, oh my God, like what went wrong? Like, why did I say this? Maybe I should have said this. So because again, the situation is where it's at right at that moment and you can't change it. So what can you do in the present moment to react the best way for you? Number 3, embrace flexibility. I've talked a lot about flexibility recently, especially in how it relates to being an entrepreneur, a business owner, because we have to always be flexible. Something is always changing. I mean, I got an email today from a client that said, hey, our website keeps going up and down. Well, obviously I need to pause what I'm doing and address that, because that to me is a bigger issue than what I was doing before. So I'm going to make a note of what I was doing before, so I come back to it, but I'm going to go over there and respond to my client and say, hey, I'm going to take a look at it right now. I said, I don't see anything really egregious here that would be, and it was going down for a couple of minutes and then coming back up. So it could be the server, it could be a couple of different things. And I said, that's where, right now I'm going to look at one more thing, or have my team look at one more thing in a couple of days. But I was able to be flexible and be open to being flexible. And that's a big piece in entrepreneurship, because, and again, like that's taken a while for me because I'm a pretty structured person. So I like, here's my day. I like my day to stay like this. If I know, like, here's the appointments I have, here's the free time I have to like get other work done. That's what I like. Right. And then something pops up, whatever that is, and throws my day off a little bit, or, I need to be able to be flexible enough to adjust. And I've learned how to do that, which really empowers me to be more positive, stay focused, and be like, okay, it is what it is. I'm going to get this done and then come back to this. Number 4, cultivate positivity. And I think that's a big piece and that goes back to staying in the present moment, because when we stay in the present moment, we tend to be more positive because we have control over the present moment. Like I do not have control over what was past, and I do not have a control over like what could happen in a day from now. I can control what I can do right this second in the present moment. I can control my reactions to something. Am I going to react angrily? Am I going to be sad? Am I, whatever it is, that's what I can control. I can't control anything else. And then finally, build resilience. And again, I've talked a lot about resilience recently as well. And how do you recover from setbacks? And I think that's where I've really excelled in the last few years, is when something happens, it doesn't get me down as quickly. It doesn't get me down. It doesn't, like, I'm able to recover more quickly. I'm able to, look at things from a more positive side. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I used to, like early on in my entrepreneurial days, like 10 years ago, I would wake up in a panic mode in the middle of the night. Like, what if this happens? Like, what if this contract doesn't come up or come through? What if this doesn't, do whatever? And now I'm pretty good about staying in the present moment. Okay, here's the situation. What do I need to do what can I do to be proactive to fix the situation? Because honestly, that's all I can control. Say you lose a big client, for example. That's one thing. Like, what if you lose a big client? And again, I'm talking from the business standpoint, but this can be used in any, whether you're in business for yourself or you're not in business for yourself. But if you lose a big client and say that's a revenue that you count on every month, okay, you lost the client. It is what it is. But now, like, what do you do? How do you react? Like, my reaction at this point is like, okay, that's done. And now I need to figure out how to replace said income. And so what potential clients do I have? I look at talking to my team, like, who else have we talked to that might be interested? Things like that. Like, I'm more proactive of like, what can I do now to flip this situation? And that's really helped me in the last few years, because I didn't used to do that. I used to like, oh my God, this has happened. And then I would go to sleep at night. I'd wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning and I'd just be in like a panic state. And then I couldn't go back to sleep. So I might as well just get up and work. And I think that's where I've grown the most, is building the resilience. So again, we're talking today about, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. That is probably my all-time favorite quote at this point in time. I use it whenever someone asks me for a quote. But it's really key in how we live our life as an entrepreneur, or how you live your life in general, whether you're a business owner or not. And again, I talked about practicing mindfulness and really staying in the present moment. And for me, that's helped immensely. Number 2, develop emotional intelligence. Like, how are we reacting to the situation? And how are other people reacting? Because that's one of the things we often don't consider, is like the emotions of others, and how can we use that? Embrace flexibility. That's a big piece in entrepreneurship. We have to be able to be flexible and, move around certain situations. Number 4, cultivate positivity. And I really think that goes back to staying in the present moment, because in the present moment, everything, it may not be perfect, but hey, we're alive. I'm healthy. I'm like in the present moment right this second. I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm good. Right. And then 5, build resilience. And again, that's probably where I've excelled the most over the years, is really being able to come back from any setbacks. And I shouldn't say not let them bother me, because, I'm not completely locked off from it, but not let them bother me to the point of reacting in a negative way, or letting it get me so down that I don't figure out what the solution. I'm more solution focused at this point than like, oh, woe is me, victim focused. So if that makes sense to everyone. But thank you today for jumping on here. Drop in the chat if you're listening to this on the replay, or even if you listen to it live, how you like that quote. Is that a quote that you resonate with? Is that a quote you've heard before? The quote is from Charles Swindoll. And again, it's probably one of my favorite quotes of all times, of everything I've heard. And anytime someone asks me for a quote, that's the one I use. So I hope you have a good rest of your day, great rest of your day, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye for now.